Yeah, that's some intro. I spent a little while working on it, and I gotta say, I think it came out looking pretty nice. But let's go ahead and get on to the fencing, the heart and soul of this channel. This week, we're going to be looking at the fencing scene from Richie Rich. So, I've already seen this scene. It's been a while since I've seen the whole movie, but from what I saw of it before, I'm going to be fairly lenient with what's going on. But let's go ahead and dive right in.
Of course, capital appreciation is all well and good, but not without a sound growth strategy.
I know I said I'd be lenient, but this is a pretty glaring safety issue that I've been kind of in this situation before, and it's just, it makes me cringe. They should not be that close without masks on to anyone else fencing. Occasionally, it can't really be avoided if you're in a club with limited space and you're reffing someone and then there's someone on the strip behind you. You might find yourself a little bit too close for comfort to both sides. And, I could tell you in that case, usually you're like standing as far back from the people you're reffing as possible and also just begging that the fencers behind you are not going to just smack you upside the head by accident. Obviously, no one's trying to hit you, and they are on a strip that's very back and forth. There's not a whole lot of side to side, real fast whipping motions that go out that way. Any fast whipping motions would be towards your opponent, but, mistakes can be made, accidents happen, and if it does happen, I don't want my unprotected face near it. So I hate the fact that they're so close to everyone with no protection on. Like I said, it does sometimes happen, but if you're just walking through like that, I understand why they have people fencing around them, why they chose this particular section of the club to walk through. It's to make it, just look cooler. But in reality, you'd go around in all likelihood. You'd find the space that has the fewest people because you don't want to get in the way of the bout. And you don't want to get hurt if someone makes a mistake and you're too close. But let's keep going.
Well, I've got only one word to say to you. Pork bellies. So what do you think, Rich? I think all we ever talk about is money. We should be having fun. Money is fun. All I'm saying is, I'm wondering if you guys can come over this weekend and, hang out. Hang out? Yeah, like normal kids. No, you're really acting weird, Richie.
I've brought this up before, and I guess I understand, because when I was a kid, before I started fencing, and I saw stuff like this, I thought it looked really cool, like, wow, these swordsmen really know what they're doing. In reality, you don't want to cross blades for any reason with an opponent, even if it's just a drill partner, without masks. It's so unsafe. There's no reason for it. If an instructor caught them doing that, I don't know. In my case, if I caught them doing that, I'd give them laps. This is don't do this. Especially since in this case they're not even like doing a drill or anything. They're just kind of like playing around. So there's no reason to even have it. Like I said, I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but I do remember that they have fencing in here as a way to sort of portray it as, a very, upper class activity, something that elitists and rich people do. And I would like to say that's not really true. I will admit some of the equipment gets a little pricey. But for the most part, it's just a community of a lot of like-minded people who are all there for, roughly the same goal. And so I've met people from all walks of life in fencing. It's definitely not really filled with, snobs like this. Every now and then you'll find one, and I think in some areas there are a little bit more than average. So they do exist, but it's not like solely comprised of them. In this case, it feels kind of shoehorned in, and it doesn't really show them doing a whole lot. So this little bit right here, it wasn't a drill. They definitely weren't fencing. I don't know why it was there. And it was unnecessary, and I just really wish they had their masks on when they did it. That seems to be like a huge thing that a lot of studios just gloss over. So I really hated that part. I would like to bring up something that I thought was funny, that was a little bit difficult to notice, but you'll see right here, when they're walking, you can actually see one of the fencers behind them drops their foil and then quickly bends down to pick it up, and they immediately go back to fencing. And I just kind of liked that idea of an extra on set being like, oh crap, I didn't mean to do this. I don't want to ruin the scene. Get back to fencing. If you drop your blade either during a real bout or practice, either way, it's gonna stop everything. Well, I mean, like, not the entire room is just gonna, fall silent and stare at you. But, your opponent's gonna stop moving. They're gonna give you time to, pick it up, recover, and just, they're not gonna all of a sudden just, lay down the law on you once you have your foil back in hand, but you haven't, like, really recovered yet. They're gonna be courteous. They're gonna wait for you to, get back to where you need to be. So I just thought it was funny, sort of like, there's almost a bit of panic. Although, I say it's not realistic for fencing, but it probably was realistic for an actor being like, I don't want to screw up the scene. So, yeah, I just thought it was something funny to bring up. Let's watch the last bit of it.
Anyway, no can do. I promised my dad I'd go to Tokyo with him for a hostile takeover. Ellsworth?
Oh, sorry, trustees meeting.
Ow! Watch your rear, Ellsworth. First rule of defense. This is a cappuccino. I asked for a decaf cafe latte, you incompetent imbecile. If you can't do the job, you...
First rule of defense, Rich. Always watch your rear.
Alright, so I get the fact that they're trying to play this kid off as, like, just being an incompetent little shit. But it's kind of funny because what he said doesn't actually make any sense in the context. The first rule of defense is to watch your rear. I mean, maybe if you're in a street fight and you're surrounded by people, yeah, you don't want to get, grabbed from behind. But in fencing, that literally can't happen. And the thing is, there are a few examples of people using their flexibility, their height, and a few other things to actually score a touch on the back of their opponent, even while facing them. The thing is, though, that's not something that you can really be watching for. There's no way you would have the time to turn around and watch it happen. So even though people can hit you on the back, telling someone to watch their rear, it's pretty useless. So I think it's funny how, I can't really take it too seriously because of how they're portraying this kid, but it's funny because it makes no real sense in this context. That's not a piece of advice that any fencer should really listen to. But that's the end of that. There wasn't a whole lot going on. I'm going to be lenient with the score, but they did get a few things wrong. Obviously the whole not having masks the entire time, even when they're exchanging blades. Also, as much as I wish this were realistic, most fencing clubs, at least most that I know of, don't have servants there to bring you coffee. Again, I wish that was true. I mean, I don't even drink coffee, but, I'd want to order someone around after a bout, especially if I just lost. But no. You don't really have servants in a fencing club like this. It's a real shame. We should get on that. That is a problem, America. We need more coffee people in fencing clubs. I mean, it's just a necessity if you think about it. But anyways, I think the final score for this scene would be a 5 out of 10. I'm being real lenient with this, but, you know, obviously they didn't really, like I said before, the whole fencing scene wasn't really a focal point for the movie. It didn't really do much to bring out any character development, so, you know, there wasn't really a reason to focus on it. But despite that, they actually do have a better setup than a lot of other movies I've seen where that was also the case, but then you can see just how much thought they put into it with their setup. So they did a better job there. They made it actually look kind of like more realistic, if like somewhat aristocratic, really snobby person's fencing club. But it, you know, it wasn't bad. But yeah, they did have a couple hiccups that really brought them down. I mean, first and foremost, not really showing a whole lot of fencing. There wasn't really, they were in a fencing club, but it didn't show them as fencers, except for the fact that they wore some equipment, but then didn't wear some of the most important equipment. They carried their masks, they never wore them. So that's probably the biggest thing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I just decided to do this because, you know, it was fencing in media. I knew there wouldn't be very much to the scene, but I definitely didn't procrastinate. That didn't happen. So I'll see you next week. Bye.